entertaining the world out there. You did it, huh? And you found the parking places? So, we come from all different places. And we are so happy to have with us Michael Guinane. And I found out Michael Guinane is Irish and not French. And I've been saying his name in a French fashion and finding out he's from Tipperary. I'm really excited about that, my family being from Cork and the whole area of Galway. But the things that we find out about one another. And we find out also the wonderful stories that are connected with people around us all the time. Rausch, instructor, with Michael, instructor. Do you all know that? Some know, some don't. What's 5 years for you?
They know us.
And 6 years for you, but did they know you were from Tipperary?
I've never been there.
Have you ever met Eric's mother? Maybe you did for Conversations and Coffee, Kathy, and wife, Jen, and parents of 2 children. Their names are Ruby and Indigo. Wow. And finding out all these wonderful things, you bring with us the wonder of Cuba. And what a gift. I said, what stands out in your mind, in your experience? And Eric says, art. They are about art as a primary way of expressing life. And having grown up in a time when it didn't seem that way in Cuba, it seemed more so filled with conflict that amazing that the reconciling expression of life is art. So thank you. And I said, does anything happen there like earthquakes? I've just come from 2 earthquakes in Southern California. Quite an experience. And I said, no. He said, not earthquakes, but blackouts. So as
Havana, Havana had no water while we were there, no serviceable water to the local residents. The tourists didn't have so much of an interruption, but throughout the entire trip, multiple times a day, water trucks were going around and people were coming with buckets or drinking right out of them. You would look at this water truck and think, we would put crude oil in this truck and it was their potable drinking water that they were drinking from the street. I didn't include a picture of it, but it was part of this trip specifically. Havana's been without water. I was talking to one of the local Cubans and they said it's been weeks and they have kind of these rolling blackouts of water, let alone power, which is kind of get over, but water you need.
What's
different districts too, they do it one at a time. So you know which neighborhoods to go to, the areas to find that water.
Yeah, so a lot of it was like different districts too. So they did, like you said, rolling blackouts where they pick and choose, and then the same with the water. They're like, oh, they're on this side of town, over here on this part of the mountain, and this part to get the water. And so you'd see people carrying these big 5-gallon, rolling 5-gallon jugs down wheels and then bringing it back home.
expressing themselves through art. Amazing. Tell us, you graduated from CCAD, huh? And you graduated in...
I graduated in illustration. That's what the major I was. So I wanted to tell stories. That's what I always wanted to do. Originally, being a book illustrator was my goal, but I also wanted to be a painter. And that was hard to, I mean, it's not that hard, but it's, you know, you try to get into both, but so much thought to the computers and doing everything digitally, and I wanted to just paint and really create with that and work with my hands much more physically. So that's what I got into. But the idea of telling stories, and even if it's not the most obvious thing, but just conveying a mood within that work.
Did you change painting in school, or was that after when you graduated?
Mostly after. I tried for a while. I did freelance illustration. Excuse me. And I didn't like being told exactly what to do for every project. And being like, this has to be a red flower pot, yellow flower. This is going to be just like this, sitting on a table with a window to the left. Now you paint it. And I mean, there was some creativity you could have, but it's just a matter of the art directors would know what they wanted, and you just were the tool to do it for them.
So many artist careers born out of stubbornness.
Yep.
Well, tell us, Eric, how stubborn you were at OSU when you graduated in art.
Yeah, in 2007, I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Ceramics, and I pitched myself 12 years later to spend my working days in a ceramic studio, be it this one or the space that I've started south of here. I have a business, production pottery business that we're doing alongside of my teaching here at the Cultural Arts Center. So I'm not leaving the ceramic studio. It's most people's first question. Kiln room.
The name of your pottery.
Kiln room. It's easy to remember and very necessary for the ceramic process.
Wonderful. And I was speaking with your mother earlier, and Kathy, I asked Kathy to say what she would say about her son, and of course, Eric going with Michael, going to Cuba.
I wasn't knowing I was going to be speaking, but thank you. So I gave it a really quick thought of these two amazing artists going to Cuba, and me learning more about Cuba and how they use art to express themselves. So it occurred to me that Eric is changing the world one piece of ceramics at a time. And I personally believe that's incredibly important because we need to express ourselves, get off the computers and the phones and the TV and Netflix, not that I don't do that, but so expressing yourself with your hands in some kind of artistic way, I think is just really important. And the more we can get people to do it around the world, the better. And then sharing the cultures just builds that bond, so.
Mom supports it.
Yes.
We watch the kids, so.
Most important.
Some of you may remember conversations and coffee recently with mother and son, and Kathy's beautiful work in the mandalas, and son saying, that's where I got it. So thank you, Kathy, thank you. All right.
Hopefully it's not too much of me, but I'm up first, I believe.
All right.
So bear with me for just 1 second, and while I get this on, I don't know if you have one of these, but please do me a favor and take one of these cards and put it in your pocket. It's a picture of the piece that was included from the exhibition that we're going to talk about. This video that I'm hiding is one that Michael took in Old Havana, where our Airbnb was, and we were on a Coco taxi, which is a motorcycle with the fiberglass yellow shell around it that looks sort of like a coconut. So it was, it's a good taste of what it's like there. So I'll pull up my presentation here, and I'm gonna go through a few slides here, starting with the piece that I made, and then show some pictures from the opening reception for the exhibition that we were part of, and then just some general pictures of Cuba and connecting with people. And then if there's time and interest, I can show how I made the actual tiles for the piece, because we are at the Cultural Arts Center, and that might be of more interest to some people. So try to get through this quick enough.
And if there's time, then I'll go.
Yeah, no, sorry, nobody else is here. Who said that? So the event is the Biennial de la Havana. That happens every other year or so. This one was 3 years in the making, and it was the 500th anniversary of Havana as a city, so it was a bigger deal. Our exhibition was in Matanzas, try to do my pronunciations correctly. It's a city about an hour from Havana, so this year was a bigger year, and the events of the Biennial, which is a biannual art event, they just have art installations around, all the galleries have art exhibitions, and they do rival the most academic fine art exhibitions that I've seen anywhere stateside. The Cuban artist tradition, they're trained from a very young age. Their technical proficiency is much better than most of the people I work around, and because they're trained at such an early age, right around high school, college, if they're still showing enough proficiency, they go to their national art school, and that's where they get very conceptual. Their pieces are not necessarily straightforward, and many of them are slight political stances, including the shirt that I'm wearing. This is Clandestina is the name of the company. It's I'll say an equivalent of a hipster screen printing shop in Havana. And I love this shirt because it reminds me of Cuba, but also the star here has this little fold in the side, and I bought another shirt there that says País en construcción, nada es perfecto, nada es perfecto, which means country under construction, nothing is perfect, nothing is perfect. And so the Cuban people have just a little bit of ability to push back politically. Now, you don't see anything bad about the Castros or the revolution. They very much believe that what happened in the 60s is good for the people of Cuba. Part of that is what they're hearing in their media, but lest we forget, our media kind of directs our conversations the way they go. So I'm going to do my best not to get into the political aspects of it, because my brain goes crazy. I've gone twice now. I overthink everything, so I have my thoughts on it, but I also know I don't know the full picture. I know I don't have the answers. My ultimate truth is that I don't know, so I'm not here to tell you what I know about that.
And one thing, you try not to, but it's there. It's part of the culture, is the politics, is that in that social aspect.
Yeah, and they are very loving. Like if we're gonna paint a broad brush of Cuban people, they're loving, they're humorous, they're opening, they're welcome. I've been in a Cuban home. They gave me their food right after they showed me how little food they get from the government. But there is this it's like we laugh so we don't cry kind of feeling over everything. There's this beauty in the decay of the buildings, but the buildings are decayed because there's no support for the country, so the government doesn't have the wherewithal to fix after a hurricane hits them. So since the 90s, every hurricane, every earthquake, there's no concrete. Or if maybe the concrete plant's closed, or it's 8 times the amount for a bag of concrete in Cuba than it is here. So it's just so complicated.
And one note on that specifically is the Biennial was supposed to be last year, but the hurricane hit and really devastated Cuba, so they had to postpone it to this year. So it was supposed to be the big one a year ago.
Yeah, Cuba, things just happen, and you end up going, it's Cuba. All right, so my piece is titled Taza de Cuba, which is off the phrase Taza de Café, which is a cup of coffee. And the general concept is that if we can have a cup of coffee, then we're not talking about drinking coffee necessarily, we're talking about sitting down, talking about, maybe it's work, maybe it's personal stuff, but there's a connection happening there. So that general idea led me down quite a few directions, visually, logistically, getting the piece to Cuba. There was all sorts of things, months of planning, and then I'll say weeks of execution because of unknowns, like we were just talking about. So in that thinking, I simplified it to this sort of poem that I wrote that I was going to try to read it in Spanish. Si pudiéramos compartir un taza de café, hablar de nuestras emociones, discutir nuestras pasiones, explicar nuestras diferencias, construir puentes, ampliar nuestro entendimiento, abrir nuestras mentes, conectarnos mejor como personas. La gente es gente después de todo, si compartimos una taza de café. And now I'm realizing,
Bravo!
You can see how nice it was to have Eric while you travel to a country like that.
I will point out now, just because this is what I do, here's my error. This is how I wrote that sentence when I wrote it, using my own knowledge and Google Translate. This is how that sentence is supposed to be written, thanks to Leticia, who takes my classes from Mexico, and I had her proofread things. So try not to have mistakes like that, but I was just telling my daughter today how all of my artwork, every single significant piece has one little, I call it mistake. And you just gotta let that stuff go, right? So here's some details. I carved tiles. First I rolled slabs, laid them out, did a geometric layout, collaborated with my lovely wife sitting over there, very talented illustrator herself, painter. The birds are the original birds she drew for the messenger wall, which is the public art piece we did on 5th and High. And that piece is about connecting people together, messenger pigeons and pigeons are peaceful and all of that good stuff. The flower in the corner is a flower from Cuba, picture that I took. The mugs are silhouettes of mugs that I made. Almost too cheesy for me to put Ohio, USA and Havana, Cuba on there, but whatever. Gets the point across really darn quick. So the back of it, you can see now the geometric shapes a little better. Wood cleat system to have it hung on the wall. You can see the plywood, that's all of them. Especially right after I made this, I was more proud of the template to hang it than the piece itself. All these little dots have, I went ahead and used millimeters and centimeters because they're not inches and feet. So down to the centimeter, how to put the tiles, tile 2 and the cleats go on there. Each one is taped to the back, labeled, signed. The template's rolled up and put in there. I also included pieces of paper with instructions in English and in Spanish. One of them is an overall thing for people opening it up. It says this crate has artwork in it, in English and in Spanish, included the hardware. Luckily, Michael Reese, who curated this whole exhibition, had gotten hammer drills down there, so I didn't know what wall they're going to. Just in case the crate got turned upside down, they would know. Turn it over. So this is the 2 crates in the back of my truck, March 26th in Ohio. And then April 16th, there's Jen and I standing in front of the piece in Matanzas. That's crazy. To get a piece from my driveway, March 26th, to Matanzas, Cuba, not even Havana, Cuba, we got to get it somehow on a, banana truck or something to get those bubbles up.
Well, the day before our show, we were told they're still in Havana, about 2 hours away from going to TV.
And we were like, okay. So it worked though, and that's kind of that's the ongoing lesson. Here there's so much things that we think we can control because we do have great postal service and we have multiple options and we're starting new companies to do shipping. There it's like, you get by with what you can, and someone's cousin knows someone in Miami. That's literally how it happened. And it got there the day before. And hours before we went to see it, it wasn't done. And the Cubans are totally, that's how they live their life since they're kids. Like, they know that no problem at all.
I mean, you don't want to go to your opening and just hope that your work is there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't have to kick us out after the opening. Yes? I used pieces of carpet in between, actually, yeah, and the weight was a whole thing. So I do, in the process video, because building the crates and getting the weight just right, it was 2 crates because they had to be 66 pounds and I had to include the crate. I actually took out 2 pieces of foam that I thought were going to because it fitted to 66, not 66.5, and I was like, now I don't feel confident shipping them. So here's some pictures of the opening. It was awesome. It was like a couple hours. We got there on Friday. I'm not going to cover the whole trip, but the opening was on a Sunday from 1 to 3 p.m. We went in at 1 p.m., thought the opening started. They ushered us out, and then we realized that they did, in fact, forget 2 people's pieces of art to hang them on the wall because they were, so they said, oh, it's not open yet. Get outside. Go outside in the sun. And then 20 minutes later, we came in. Everything was hung. It was beautiful.
Hot sun.
Hot sun. Last week in flame. So, it's got that Cuban charm. The walls are all rock and plaster. They cleaned it up just beautifully. We saw this space the year before, and it was like, how could they? It was like piles of rubble, basically. They cleaned it all out. They built a roof for the place. Not a roof, but a drop ceiling. Joey Monsoon, Derek Gill, Julie Woodrow, a lot of 38 artists. When my mom says that little thing about changing the world one piece of art at a time, and I do really like that. I like to think I'm going to change the world, although I understand it's just my little circle. Maybe I can change your world because you're in the same room with me. But the power of having 38 of us go down there, and there was 60 of us total that went down because we brought partners, and Jen and I collaborated on the show. So it's just so amazing. I'm actually getting goosebumps right now thinking of how Michael Reese just put his head he had this idea, he gets a team, he gets artists around, he gets money going, and it's all like, maybe it's happening March 23rd, I think it's going out March 26th, it's just this craziness, but then when you look back at this, that's one person. I mean, he changed the world by doing that, by having that idea and following through with it. I mean, that's concrete doing that. No, we had, I think there were, if there's 38 Columbus artists, there were around that many Cuban artists that were in the exhibition as well. And I hope to not lose this in the entire, I'd like to revisit specifics about this, but October 1st through November 15th in Columbus, there's going to be an exhibition with our artwork and Cuban artwork. Cubans can't really get here. We won't go in politically. But for a month and a half, this show is going to hang in Columbus, so it's very much an exchange of artwork, culture through artwork, and that kind of stuff. So look for that.
Hopefully. As currently our artwork is being held in customs.
I have total faith now. I have no faith, but at the same time, like, it'll happen or not. I don't know. But the show is definitely, we just got an email about things. It's going to be at the Hilton primarily. Michael Reese is the curator of the Hilton Hotel, the convention center. He's curating the new Hilton Hotel. He's got, if he was in the room, he'd start telling you about 12 sister cities. He wants to send artists to do this. This guy's brain is just always going. We're in Cuba doing this amazing thing. He's talking about 12 other cities 2 years from now. The Hilton, other areas of the short north, there's going to be other galleries because Michael's represented in the short north. Laura Alexander who went. There's, most of the artists are represented. I would say many artists by short north galleries, so they'll show the artwork and Cuban artwork. Here we're going to have a piece actually. Some of the Cuban artists that I've met, we're going to find a place to display in the building as like little Easter eggs around the city. There will be like, there's a passport coming together so you can see where all the things are. So October 1st, I'm sure it'll all be displayed at the front desk. So the whole point is to connect people. Where are we? All right, 25 after. Well, did I think I'm going to use the fun? Come on. This is my buddy Jorge. Last year I went there and I brought just a Ziploc baggie full of clay tools, which was like, if you look in the back room closet here, think about all the tools left behind here. I bring this bag there and it's, they just don't have this stuff. So I left what to me was a bunch of, I did handpick the nicest used tools that I had, but he was overwhelmed, and I talked to him a little bit about throwing in the wheel, and he goes, I can't figure out why these are cracking, and I said, well, that's wrong with the thing. It's just like this little interaction, and then he came up to me, gave me a mug, so I've had this mug all year, I drank out of it, I reflected on it, and then when I went back, I brought him this little Ohio cup, and this is us. I gave it to him, and we were just hugging. It's seeing someone then a year later, and that happened quite a few times. You just really form these connections. So on the left, 2018, on the right, 2019, the same artist, Santeria priest named Solomon. I mean, as far as artistry goes, I don't know, this guy's tapped into what you need to tap into.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic, and just joyous to see us too.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you guys are the most amazing artists." I'm like, "Well, look at your studio.
Yeah,
we got nothing on you with this."
Yeah. So I brought him a little backpack. He's wearing the coffee and stuff in there, and it's just that connection is so much more important than I do have a couple pieces of his. Bought a piece of his that was taken by the Cuban government as a travel. On the left, me in the home of Javier and Teresa, who are both trained artists, Cuban. They went to Germany for art school, now they have a son. They're both doing contemporary ceramics down there. These are the ones who showed me their book of how little food they get and served me all the food they had. Then on the right, they were on the bus with us, and I snapped this picture because they were cracking up, and I was like, I just had the thought, like, I can get a good picture, and I did, but they were laughing because someone showed them a meme. I'm not getting political, but somebody showed them a Spanish meme of comparing, Trump said something about tanks, and it's like, so they were laughing at our president, but it was just a lovely moment. This other guy, so Solomon, was like, you gotta meet this ceramics artist. I have his name on a card somewhere. He gave these, you can't really see him, these sculptures behind, so we walked in his studio, I gave him a mug, he's drinking out of it there, and then he just kept coming back up and saying things, Spanish friendly things, and so that's what it's all about. And then, connecting to another culture, but having the opportunity to get close to my Columbus friends. I have so many friends in the art world because we see each other at shows and we know, oh, you're really good friends with a friend of mine, so we're friends. But now the group of 7 of us here sitting around these two restaurant pictures, and Tariq Terry, the guy I'm shaking hands with there, we're in our Airbnb there. So we decided, there were 60 people going, so it wasn't like, okay, everybody's staying here. It was like, if you want, you can Airbnb. So we got a little adventurous and did Airbnb, and traveling with people and getting close to that, it's just it's a new bond that will never be lost. So it's a big, huge deal. And then here, the first trip, someone warned me. They said it's kind of weird to be like, oh, I'm the big American. Here's a ball for you, child. And they love it. That's not why you do it. You don't do it because it's like, here you go. It's like, oh my gosh, here I have this little thing. It's like, amazing. This good butcher across the street. He's wearing a Green Bay Packer hat. That's my hat that I had. He goes, are you on the team? I was like, yeah, I'm on the team. I got a picture of him, like, you know, his barbershop just smelled, or a butcher shop, I'm sorry, not barber, butcher, smelled terrible. This guy here, he was just walking by, and I gave him a coin out of my pocket, and he asked to take a picture with me. So I did that. This family here, we got a bunch of these pictures.
There was a lot of that too. Like, them just coming up to us, like, hey, where are you from? And they just want to talk. And just get to know, like, tell me about Ohio. And they just want to get to know what, I mean, they want to just have a conversation.
Yeah, there was never, I said this a lot after the last trip, but it was reinforced. There's never a moment where you felt unsafe for your health. You weren't going to get mugged or beaten up or robbed. They're trying to get an extra dollar out of you sometimes, and you hear the, you know, the, oh, good price for you, good price for you, come on in, yeah, $3, you want a mojito, nothing else.
Fell for it every time.
Every time. All right, so here are just a couple pictures. This is a wood shop that I just had to poke my head into. You know, fully functioning wood shop. Dudes wearing flip-flops right there. These are like some of the oldest machines I've ever seen. You know, they're just, everything's crooked, cockeyed, but this is their shop, and it's not too different besides the fact that it's got all the crumbling plaster, and you know, it's what we have here. So I had to poke my head in there. This is a guy that I bought cigars from last year. We found him on the street. That was awesome. He was so psyched to see us, and we were psyched to see him. Talking to him. This guy right here, if I follow him on Instagram now, his name's Charlie. We were walking the night before. Tariq is just an amazing documentary photographer. We were walking by, and he goes, I have to take your picture tomorrow. What? Okay, and so we got it done. So we went there. This is the next day at noon. Dude was sleeping in. We had to yell to him. I gave a little bottle of liquor to the guy in the street, and which room is it? You yell for a while.
You yell up.
You yell up. Charlie! Yeah, he has, and everything's like just getting there. Yeah, they're not so repressed as a people as you might think by the government. But it's just they haven't had the wherewithal to get online. But they have Wi-Fi now. It's in the park.
And that's the thing, it's about the access to these things.
Literally
It's hard to get, you go to parks, and that's where you can go to Wi-Fi.
It's like a calling card, and then any Wi-Fi device, you can go to the Wi-Fi park, or the hotels sometimes have them, or they just don't. Like they have, and oh yeah, it doesn't work. So I guess not. This picture down here is awesome. Jen got to come on the last trip, and we were in the market, which is like, you know, when you're walking in there, you're getting the good price for you. Come over here, and they come. It's just like most of the people wouldn't go in there. It's just too much. But while we were there, I was making a deal on something, and Jen was just standing there, and this girl was like communicating with her. I didn't see the interaction, but I heard all about it. And she was, I think Laura Alexander was there, right? And said I think she wants your earrings. So ended up Jen traded earrings. They had coconut earrings, and so she's wearing the like $3 Target earrings or whatever they had. And it was like there's a series of pictures of this girl going. I couldn't put them all on. But yeah, just the biggest smiles. Oh, so this I have to share with you.
She gave me the microphone so I could add to that. The funniest part of that is that I didn't speak Spanish, and Eric does, but Eric was making a deal for some sort of secret cigars under a table, and I was like, this girl's talking to me, and she's, oh, bonita, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just smiling like an idiot, and Laura Alexander goes, she wants your $3 Target earrings. I felt so cool and stupid at the same time. So then I was like, oh, do you want these as a present? And she, wildly excited, she was calling other booth ladies over to look at them, and then she gave me her earrings and closed my hand. She's like, for you. And I was like, oh, cool, we're trading. Okay, and then I put them on, we took pictures, and then we were leaving, and it was the best time, and I bought nothing. she was trying to get on her Facebook, and I could tell it was Facebook, but like, I was like, oh, they have all these things, but I don't know what any of it, you know? So it was a
The
fun
interesting
interaction.
thing about the Facebook thing is sometimes they have Facebook, they get all of the news, all of the movies, all of the songs, Facebook websites, they are downloaded onto hard drives, and then every neighborhood, you know where to go to get the person who has the hard drive. It's a black market, and you pay, you know, $1 for the download, and they get all the bootleg movies, so they see our movies before we do usually. So a lot of times it's like they're tuned in, but it's like a day late or something. You know, they're not. It's not they can get on their phone right then. But yeah, it's amazing how information travels when it wants to. So I want to share this with you. This is roughly 12 guys carrying. This is a giant ivy. It stopped me in my tracks. And stuff like this all the time in Cuba, but it stopped me in my tracks, and I watched for a little while. And they can say, you can see how they just. That is a at least 12-foot long steel ivy that weighs God knows how many hundreds of pounds. But I mean, on the way home, take a look at all the trucks that drive by with cranes on the back and the forklift things that goes on the back there. Just not existent. So just get a bunch of dudes. Put on whatever. But yeah, it's just so funny. It's so lovely to watch. That's the thing. Oh, here's one of my favorite things that I saw this time that I didn't see last time. Arbor was the tree of light. So it stopped me because I'm just, sculpture weird things get me. And went there, saw it at night, I think first, went back during the day, and then found out what it says down here. These are 15 different lights from 15 different countries: Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, China, blah, blah, blah. So it was like, this is why we're here. We're in Cuba to connect with people. This piece is about Cubans connecting with other countries. Like, it's just a continuous conversation that we're not the first to have by any means. So there's Jen at Airbnb, looking fab, I must say. That's what we had come home to. My mom and dad watched them half the time. Jen's mom and dad watched them the other half. I'm not sure we're allowed to travel anymore, but there they are. So if you're ready.
That was when we came down to the show, and they were fixing it, so we were taking pictures. Yeah, that was just a signature shot, and then I was taking it. We were making these kind of fun, we were doing it. And look, he doesn't look hot at all, he's just like, oh, listen to me. It's like,
We're going to go kind of backwards through this real fast, and then we'll come back real quick. But again, our time is going to be very limited. You guys get a preview of what we're going to see on everything. So, awesome. So, just to start, image Cuba. This is just Melicon. And I'm going to get into a lot of